Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. It is no secret that Battlefield 6 has stumbled quite a bit since launch, where it launched to being the most successful Battlefield title to date in terms of sales, in terms of the launch attention that it got. It had massive player counts right away, largely thanks to great marketing, its biggest competitor in Call of Duty not really being in a great spot, the beta going over relatively well. Like, it had everything going for it, everything going well for it. And then unfortunately after launch, some of the hype died down, as it usually happens with most games that release to insane amounts of hype. There is a slight dip down period where the hype does fall off a little bit. It's like that honeymoon phase, if you will. But then it's not really in a situation of plateauing and then just kind of staying stagnant or maybe even growing again once they launched a free-to-play battle royale or anything. Instead, Battlefield has just consistently declined more and more over the past few months. And now we're looking at the point where it's like, wow, we are only into, close to season 2 here with Battlefield 6, with that coming up mid-February, and Battlefield is kind of in some trouble here. Should they be in panic mode, even though the game launched not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, and it's going to be a multi-year project, a multi-year title where we're seeing updates well into 2026, into 2027. It's not going to be the cycle of, oh, there's a new Battlefield game in the fall, so it's okay if this one stumbles some. They definitely have to have a resurgence of some kind. And today I wanted to break down a little bit more of what's happened to Battlefield 6, why it has some of these larger problems, and why it's viewed as being in trouble right now. That launch with all that hype is certainly something you love to see, but this downfall, this huge decline that it's seen throughout the launch of season 1, which I think is probably the most surprising, the first seasonal update for the game that also brings in a new free-to-play battle royale that had quite a bit of hype behind it as well. Obviously, it's not everybody's cup of tea. Some of the Battlefield diehards just want that Battlefield multiplayer experience. They're not going to play the battle royale, and that's fine. There's also plenty of battle royale fans out there, FPS fans out there, that like the mechanics of Battlefield in terms of gameplay and engagements more than some of the other battle royales out there. I think it has a really good core gameplay loop, and it's something I personally enjoy. But you launch something like that that's a major investment, it's free to play, and they didn't really see a spike up in players from it. They saw a little bit of a boost ever so slightly at the launch of season 1, and then they went right back to declining. That's concerning. Season 1 brought back that resurgence, but it was not major, and especially with a free-to-play title involved there, that certainly has to sound some alarms. And since then, we've just seen it stumble more and more, which now makes season 2 and probably season 3 probably the most pivotal updates Battlefield 6 could have in its lifespan, which is kind of crazy to consider, knowing that this is going to be a multi-year game, because at some point it will hit that plateau where it's like, okay, this is where the game's probably going to sit for quite some time. And Battlefield games have always had this case of, at times at launch, they'll drop off pretty heavily in terms of the player counts, and then it'll spike back up, a year plus after launch. And that's just kind of how Battlefield works. And it's this kind of quirky thing that is not necessarily exclusive to it, but certainly a unique property it has versus a lot of other titles out there, especially games that have yearly offerings like Call of Duty or situations like that. But the main thing right now that seemingly is impacting this game at such a high level is update frequency and the amount of content we've got available to us in this game. Obviously, this game was in development for quite some time, and its launch offerings were all right, but they weren't stupendous. They weren't phenomenal, right? We have a couple of maps. It's definitely not a ton by any means, and a lot of them play very similarly, or a lot of them engage very similarly, which is very quick points to engagement, very quick time to engagement on a lot of these maps. They're not these grand, large scale maps that Battlefield really is known for. We've got a couple that are decent in size, but a lot of these are medium to small sized maps. They definitely are built around the fact that they wanted to include different, cut down sections for team deathmatch, for King of the Hill, for domination, things like that. So you have this, not super great amount of content right away at launch. You have an awesome amount of weapons, but those take forever to level up, so that kind of is a very overwhelming system. And beyond that, it's pretty minimal in terms of variety in gameplay, which then just leaves players wanting more. Okay, it launched with a lot of hype, but now I've played this for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I need something more. And then they bring in season 1 and we get a couple of new maps, Again, not giant maps by any means, not really what Battlefield is known for by any means. A few new weapons, the battle pass system, which some players enjoy and some players are absolutely against, and I totally see both viewpoints there. But that was about it. We saw one map right at launch. We saw another map a few weeks after that. And then we got a snowy version of Manhattan, which was not that exciting in the grand scheme of things. It's a cool little like LTM map or like little limited time thing, but for long-term purposes, not really going to keep players on the game, especially when it's over and gone in a few weeks, time, right? And then we're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And then season 2 gets pushed back and it's like, okay, well now we're in a point where everyone really wants the content, really needs more to do on the game as far as, the just general gameplay experience goes. And we're waiting even longer. And so far, what we know of season 2 is, again, not a massive amount of content. Now, it's very possible maybe they pivot some stuff and push some stuff forward so that there is more content in season 2, or maybe this is something that impacts season 3 instead, where they realize, okay, hey, the players, they're wanting more and more right now, which hasn't always been the Battlefield way of doing so. There certainly have been DLC drops in the past, though, that feature far more content, especially when it comes to like maps and gameplay stuff like that, than what we've seen so far in Battlefield 6. But it's never been this thing where it's like there's going to be 8 new maps in a season, for example, like some competitors could do or something like that. But we're in this day and age where it's kind of just gaming in general. It's largely the Fortnite effect that really started this snowball in this trend, but like players now, if you have a live service game, which basically everyone does, they expect you to be very frequent with updates and there to be a lot of content in these updates. And Battlefield 6 so far has under-delivered on both of those fronts. The seasonal content we've seen so far throughout season 1 was pretty minimal, all things considered, stacking on top of what wasn't a ton of unique launch content, specifically map-based there. What we know of for season 2, again, isn't sounding gigantic. We know of a couple of maps. We've seen some leaks and rumors here, but again, still not that much by comparison. And then when you look beyond the content, like maps, modes, things of that nature, you then also have the core gameplay problems and issues and exploits and bugs, where the netcode has been insanely problematic. Something that was unfortunately a negative standout from the beta, had a lot of feedback then. There were a lot of promises that it would be addressed, and it still is maybe the biggest issue going on with gameplay right now, where gunfights are so inconsistent. You have different bugs and glitches when it comes to audio, to visual stuff. Sometimes you just can't see things, or your character's hands are invisible, or there's weird things going on there. You have a weapon XP system that is almost a chore at this point. If you want to max out guns and get your ideal builds or get attachments that you really enjoy using for your playstyle, you could be looking at multiple hours and hours and hours to level up one single gun. And then there's 40 some whatever more to go through and do as well if you want to diversify your gameplay at all. So it becomes more of a chore and more of an annoying task to complete rather than this fun outlet to mess around on. And so these are just compounding things. You've got a content issue. You've got a gameplay mechanic issue where there's a lot of different bugs and glitches and wonky things going on with the core design elements. You've got update frequency, where at times we see multiple updates drop in a week, and then it's like radio silence for a little bit. We had the holiday break, obviously, that really impacted things. It could not have come at a worse time in general for like the state of the game, because we're sitting there going, hey, we need content, we need more frequent updates, and then the devs are out on a 3-week holiday break. You had Vince's passing, which impacts even more stuff as well in ways that I'm sure will have ripple effects for a really, really long time on the franchise and on the people in the studios, unfortunately. And so it's just like bad situation after bad situation compiling on, just compounding, which really sucks for everybody, the devs and the players alike. But it does certainly sound some alarms right now that like, hey, Battlefield 6 has something special. The core of this game is very, very good. They have the attention of the FPS community, and it seems like players are all really wanting this game to be what they hope it is. We saw that hype, we saw that want at launch, and where they've missed in some areas, they could absolutely rebound there. Address the content issues, the gameplay issues, the update frequency or lack thereof. Those are all fixable things, which should be, I think, inspiring for players looking forward. It's just a matter of, can they actually do it, and can they do it soon with season 2, with the mid-season for season 2, maybe season 3, because time is running out here. Because in this day and age, just with how gaming is, players don't have a super long attention span. There is not a lot of patience in gaming anymore, which is unfortunate, but that's just kind of the reality of where we're at. And when you have, you know, a Modern Warfare 4 on the horizon, which could be a very, very strong competitor to Battlefield 6, when you have GTA 6 on the horizon, even though it's not a similar game in a lot of ways, it's going to be the biggest game on the planet. That's going to be concerning for Battlefield. When you have Arc Raiders doing as well as it is right now and seemingly not slowing down anytime soon, that's going to be a main competitor as well. Again, even though it is a very different game. So Battlefield has a lot of opportunity to, you know, cater to what the players want right now. But will they do it? That is the question. Regardless, they've got to do some major things here very soon, and hopefully a lot of this starts with season 2. Obviously, we'll be covering all the main updates, any news that the devs give us over the course of the next few weeks leading up to season 2 and beyond as well. So if you guys want to stay in the know for absolutely everything going on in Battlefield, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you guys enjoyed the video, you agree with the points I bring up here, you want to share it around and get more eyes on these topics, a like rating is a fantastic way to do so. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.